Hello everyone, and welcome to the CPE 299 mentoring video for Cybersecurity Engineering. My name is Jesse Hairston, and I work here at UAH as a research engineer in the Center for Cybersecurity Research and Education. I also graduated here from UAH in 2015 with my bachelor's in computer engineering, and the next year, 2016, I graduated with my master's in cybersecurity on the computer engineering track. So when I went to school here, this was before we actually had the cybersecurity engineering program, but really it kind of is a combination of that computer engineering program mixed with the cybersecurity program as well. So today I'm here to tell you what I wish someone would have told me when I was a sophomore. So first we're going to start by giving you some motivation for your studies. We're going to talk about engineers, scientists, and inventors, and how those job roles really differ because they get confused a lot. Then we're going to talk about certifications, scholarships, and security clearances, all very important things for a cybersecurity major. Then we're going to dive into the cybersecurity engineering curriculum itself and talk about why it is built the way that it is. Finally, we're going to leave you with some advice. Again, some of that advice is stuff that I wish I would have been told when I was where you are, a sophomore in college. All right, so first we're going to begin by looking at scientists, engineers, and inventors. So scientists kind of add to the knowledge base that we have. Inventors create new technology, while engineers actually use science to create and control that technology. So it's kind of like an evolution of how these careers work together, right? So we're going to play a little game where we want you to think of an engineer. Now, this has to be a real engineer. It can be like Wikipedia level. You can't name your parents or your cousin or any UAH faculty members. So think of professional engineers who are famous. Now, here's an example of some people that aren't engineers. Just in case your brain just jumped to one of these names. First of all, it has to be a real person. Secondly, if you're thinking of Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Elon Musk, not necessarily engineers. These people were actually either programmers or business majors or got their degree in economics. So just think for a moment about an engineer. And to kind of give you some ideas, we're going to look at some famous scientists and inventors and list them here. So as you see on the left, these scientists added to the knowledge base, inventors created new technology. Think of some engineers that took the science and created technology around it. And specifically, it would be great if you can think of engineers who might actually have contributed to the cybersecurity field in one way or another, whether that's contributing to computing and programming in general, or if it's contributing to engineering systems that may actually make us more secure. So if you'd like, you can pause the video right here for a few seconds and write down a couple names. All right, let's look at some possible answers. Okay, so here's some engineers that you can get to know. We have Glenn Jacob Culler. He actually created one of the first original nodes of the ARPANET, which was the precursor for the internet. We have C. Gordon Bell, who oversaw the development of a very influential computing system from the 70s called the VAX. We have Lynn Conway, who essentially revolutionized the way that integrated circuits are designed and built. We have John Matherly, who created Shodan, which is an online search tool that looks for internet-connected devices all over the world. Seymour Roger Cray, the father of supercomputing. Grace Hopper, who created the COBOL language and the first compiler. Robert Tappan Morris, who controversially created the first internet worm, which brought the internet to its knees. Three very important names: Whitfield Diffie, Martin Hellman, and Ralph Merkle. These three people essentially created the modern way that we protect information on the internet, something called public key cryptography. So again, this is just a list of some possible engineers that you could have answered with. You may have found some of your own, but really this is just to show you the kinds of work that you can do after you obtain your degree in cybersecurity engineering. Now, one piece of advice that I would like to give is to begin thinking about your role in cybersecurity early on. Because one misconception is that if you learn cybersecurity, you'll know everything there is to know in the field. But the field is massive, it's expansive. There's so many different types of work roles and specialties, from cybersecurity management, cyber law, secure software development, penetration testing, which is offensive cybersecurity, cyber engineering, network analysts. You can actually go to this website, cyberseek.org, and first of all, it'll show you a map similar to what we have on the left side right here. It shows you the total number of job postings in the United States in cybersecurity over the past year. And the really cool thing is it shows the supply and demand of cybersecurity jobs nationwide as well. So, for example, just looking at the map here, the darker the color of the state is, means that there is a higher demand for cybersecurity jobs in that state. And there's also a metropolitan view. And if you switch over to that and look at Huntsville, you'll see that we have an extremely high demand for cybersecurity jobs in this city, which is one of the reasons why we have this unique degree program. Now, additionally, you can look over at cybersecurity roles. We have a snapshot of that on the right, and it shows you how the different jobs in cybersecurity relate to each other. Now, it's important to mention that there have been over 500,000 cyber job openings in the past year alone. Again, Cyberseek shows you all of that information. It also shows you what kinds of skills you might need for your chosen profession. So, for example, a cybersecurity engineer will need skills with Linux, with programming, things like Python. You have to have knowledge of cryptography, knowledge about network security. It also lists certifications, which is something else we're going to talk about shortly, and also an average salary. So cybersecurity engineers make, on average, about $99,000 a year. Again, that's nationwide. It's going to be highly dependent on your local market as well. But if we look over here at requested education on the right side, we see that most jobs in cybersecurity engineering require a bachelor's degree, which is what you're going to be getting out of the bachelor's in cybersecurity engineering program here. Now, I mentioned certifications on the last slide, and this may be something that you're familiar with, maybe it's not. That's okay. So certifications essentially prove that you have knowledge beyond just a degree. There are many different organizations that offer different types of certifications in cybersecurity. Now, this is important to bring up because these certifications are often required for certain types of jobs in cybersecurity. And depending on the job and work role that you're kind of targeting, that will influence which certifications apply to you. So, for example, if you end up deciding to go the more offensive route and you want to be a penetration tester, then you should get a certification like Certified Ethical Hacker, which covers many different topics about how to test the security of systems using offensive tactics. Now, a good baseline certification that kind of is a good entry-level one that I typically recommend for most cybersecurity majors is the CompTIA Security Plus. There are other certifications that are kind of similar to it and the amount of knowledge and breadth that they offer. But again, you kind of just have to look at the work role that you're targeting and then look at the specific certifications that are requested for that role. Something that is really helpful is to go out and early on find job postings for the kind of job you'd like to have, and then just look at the requirements. Even beyond certifications, this is helpful. Look at the skills they require. And even if you're not learning those specific skills in your classroom, it's important to be working on those on the side and pick those up as well. Now, most certifications are obtained by studying for a test and passing the exam. And usually there are courses that you can take on the side that will help you study for and prepare for these exams. Now, another piece of information that you should absolutely know if you are a sophomore is there are so many different types of cybersecurity scholarships that you can apply for. And often you can't even apply for these until you are a sophomore. So this is very timely. We actually have two major cybersecurity scholarship programs at the university that you can apply for that are specific to your field. The first one is the Cyber Core Scholarship for Service. We call this one the SFS for short. I actually received this scholarship when I was a senior, and it paid for my senior year to get my bachelor's and also the additional year to get my master's degree. Now, another scholarship program that we have is called the Department of Defense Cyber Scholarship Program. Now, both of these have very similar benefits, and the good news is we tend to select quite a few people for these scholarship programs every year at the university, and it pays for anywhere between 1 to 3 years of full tuition and fees. These scholarships also give you an annual cost of living stipend of at least $25,000 a year. Graduate students may be eligible for more. It really just depends on the scholarship and your academic standing. Now, the whole purpose of these programs is to provide incentive for people to go through, obtain cybersecurity degrees, and then go begin working for the US government instead of going straight into industry. So because of that, there is a US government job service obligation at the end of these scholarships, and also some internship obligations, which are of course paid. And again, you cannot apply for these scholarships until you are a sophomore. So if you are a sophomore right now, go ahead and go over to the UH website if you're interested. We have the URL at the top, and see if you can go ahead and apply for this for the upcoming year. Another thing that I think is very important to mention are security clearances. Now, not every job in cybersecurity will require a security clearance. However, many federal government jobs will require some form of security clearance. So I just think it's important to list some potential disqualifiers that may make it more difficult to get a clearance. So if you have severe financial instability, major foreign influence, a vast criminal record, or if you have a history of illegally using computer systems or hacking, these could be things that prevent you from getting a security clearance in the future. Now, there's always exceptions. It's important to maintain a good record. That way, when you graduate, you get your degree, and if you decide to go into these government jobs, if you're eligible to, and you need a security clearance, that there won't be something in your past that has prohibited that. All right, so up next, we're going to take a look at the cybersecurity engineering curriculum and try and figure out why it is the way that it is. So first of all, it's important to note that this curriculum was not invented to torture you. In fact, the contents of it and the text selections for it are very similar to what most accredited engineering schools will offer. However, something that's very important to note is we do not train you to be an engineer. We are providing a college education that leads to an academic degree. We do introduce you to a general set of engineering skills, but we tend to focus more on the science and math fundamentals that you need so that you can apply science to solve new technical problems. Why does it work this way? And this is a common question that people have. People come into the academic degree program and they wonder why they're not learning how to do things that they might need depending on the job that they take. So to answer that question, let's look at a scenario. Should the potential engineering student be trained to do the engineering of the day in 1914, or should they be educated on the fundamentals? So let's go back in time to the year 1914 and look at what was going on. So 12 years before then, Carrier invented the modern air conditioning system. So in 1902, 11 years before 1914, the Wright brothers had their first flight, and 6 years before then, the Ford Model T began production. So again, that just kind of puts you in the time period. Now, let's look at what happened after 1914. So imagine that you just came out of 1914 with your engineering degree, and what if they just trained you to do the job of 1914 and didn't look at the fundamentals? Well, 3 years after that, Tesla proposes an early radar system. 11 years later, the first patent on a transistor was made. 16 years later, we had a patent on jet airplanes. 22 years later, we had the first operational helicopter. 25 years later, the first electronic digital computer was created. So again, all of these changes happening not so late after 1914. So the purpose of an academic degree is really to make you a lifelong learner. We want to make it so that you're prepared for not just a job of the now. We want to make you prepared to solve new problems in the future. This is an investment in you as a person and not just you as one employee at one job. So again, just to reiterate, the difference is education versus training. We want to educate you in the fundamentals of science, math, computing, and design, and we want to leave all the trainings aside. That's not part of the degree program because those will always change and vary depending on where you go work. Now again, this can be supplemented by some of those other things that we talked about, specifically the cybersecurity certifications and trying to get those and match them for your jobs. So the resulting model that we get is the first 2 years of your college experience will be a general college education with a math and science focus. And then the last 2 years are going to be fundamentals of the major, where you get more specific into the field. Now let's look at the structure of your curriculum. So the cybersecurity engineering curriculum is actually divided into 4 main pillars that hold up the degree. The first pillar is the cybersecurity pillar, and inside of this we have an introduction to cybersecurity engineering course that has very hands-on labs with learning specific skills. We have an information systems class that focuses on cybersecurity management. We look at software development, but not just from a perspective of building efficient code, but making sure that it's secure from the ground up. We have a course on software reverse engineering, so taking a finished piece of compiled software and finding out the code that runs it and exactly how it works. We have a systems security course that looks at things like gas pipelines, electric power grids, and discusses the security of those systems and how it differs from securing a standard computer. Now, the great thing about this degree is there is the opportunity to pursue 2 different electives in computer engineering, computer science, or information systems. So you can kind of tailor those 2 elective courses to the kind of cybersecurity job role that you might be more interested in. Next up, we have the hardware design pillar, where you get your courses on digital logic design, computer organization, computer assembly language, and we have an intro to embedded systems course. Next, we have the software development pillar, which is all about creating software. Remember, and this is building up to that secure software development course, but we have the fundamentals of software engineering, software design, object-oriented programming, and learning what really makes operating systems tick. Finally, we have the computer science pillar. So the focus here is on discrete structures, algorithms, the security of networks, and also digital forensics for mobile devices. And you'll see beneath these pillars are the college education foundation, our math, science, liberal arts, and FYE courses. And then what the pillars are holding up is a capstone design course, where you take all of your education that you've learned up to that point and apply it towards a final cybersecurity engineering design. So now that we've given you some tips, showed you the curriculum, here is some advice. First of all, this one may seem obvious, but it's important to do your homework even if it's not graded. Because typically if it's not graded on the homework assignment, it'll be heavily graded on your tests. And the only way to prepare for that is actually sitting down and working through those homework problems. Also, it's important to study as a separate activity from doing your homework. Don't just do your homework and think that counts as studying as well. It's important to take a seat and take a look at your notes with a fresh set of eyes. Speaking of notes, Even inside of PowerPoint lectures that you may be given, please also take your own notes. This is especially important if you're taking online courses or doing remote learning. And something that I recommend is setting aside a specific amount of time to go back and read through your notes. And this can either be right before the next class or maybe the night or weekend after your course. If you just want to set aside some time and read back through your notes, it'll help you remember them better. Don't spend your time figuring out how to subvert the system. Again, this academic degree is an investment in you as a career professional, as a lifelong learner. And you're not going to be building towards that if you're trying to figure out how to subvert the system by cheating or through academic dishonesty. Next, make sure to be flexible and consider new opportunities as they arise. You don't have to have everything figured out right now. I know in my specific circumstance, my focus was always computer engineering until I was a senior and saw the cybersecurity scholarship opportunity arise. I took a chance, I applied for that. I was interested in cybersecurity as a field. And when I got that scholarship, that kind of transitioned my focus over to cyber, but I still brought that engineering aspect with me. So as new opportunities arise, please consider them. You don't have to have everything figured out now as a sophomore. Just have a general direction that you want to go. Okay, this next one's pretty important just because a lot of students may not know about academic protocol if you have any kind of issues. First of all, don't email or call the dean or provost to initiate a complaint. This should really start with your instructor because often any kind of problem that you have in class can be resolved by speaking with your instructor directly. If you're not comfortable with that, or if that doesn't resolve your issue, you can always elevate it to the chair of the department, which is Dr. Garor in ECE, or the associate department chair, which is Dr. Gady. Finally, do get involved in study groups, student organizations, internships, and research opportunities. So UAH is a research university, and apart from the academic programs that we offer, we also have research centers which employ research scientists and engineers and other staff to actually conduct research here at the university. And there's different types of centers that specialize in different fields of study and areas of specialty, but many of them offer employment for students. And this is really a great opportunity because if you're already living on campus, if you're going to school on campus, then you should also consider the option of working on campus. And if you're a remote student, many of these places offer remote work as well. The cool thing is you can gain relevant experience to your field and also have the chance to mentor under research professionals in your area of study. Now, there's at least 3 research centers who have cybersecurity efforts. The first one is the one that I work for, the Center for Cybersecurity Research and Education. We actually have an incubator program called the CyberForce Incubator, where we bring in student interns who are working on their degrees to also work on projects that we may have for government or for local contracting groups or for internal projects as well. Another is the Systems Management and Production Center and the Information Technology Systems Center. Now, other centers may also have cybersecurity openings as well. These are just 3 that definitely work in the field. So again, you can visit the URL at the top and find out more information about these centers and contact them if you're interested in working with them. Now, something else that I think is very important to mention is to have focus. Now, although I've mentioned certifications and research center employment that you can do on the side, your focus as a student should always be on your academics. This pie chart shows you the small sliver of your life that is college. Try to make your studies your #1 priority during the brief time that you are in college. Think of this as a return on investment. If you put in the work now and succeed, you'll be reaping the benefits from this for the rest of your life.